This is the Coming Home Podcast with John Allen. What was that? 1, 2, 3. 3, 2, 1. And welcome everybody to this episode of Coming Home with John Allen. I am your humble host, John Allen. Before we get started with my guest today, I want to make sure everybody knows that this is also going to be broadcast as a podcast episode. And you can find that at anywhere you listen to podcasts, anywhere you watch podcasts. That includes YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes. Just search the Coming Home Podcast with John Allen and you'll find me there. Okay, enough of the self-promotion. Let's talk about you, Mr. Andrew Morrow. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good, John. I'm always good.
How long have we been talking about this, man? Well, actually, you have been on my podcast.
I done an episode, I guess it was around a year ago now.
Oh, man, it was about a year ago.
Yeah, it was
almost
right
to the
bang
day.
in the middle of the lockdown.
Yeah. So much has happened
So
since
we didn't
then.
actually get to sit down face-to-face like this.
Well, I have... the pandemic came and it didn't negatively affect me too much, but it did put me into this situation where I'm a little bit more isolated because I'm not at that gym where we both go. I have my home set up here. I need to show you that afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely.
So because of that, I just haven't seen you, but I see what you're doing online. I want you to talk about that a little bit because you're offering something. You're offering a health product. Let's call it a health product. And you're doing it in a way that a lot of personal trainers don't do. You're appealing to a segment of society that needs the kind of help that you offer. Tell us about that. It's real exciting.
Yeah, so basically I run an online coaching program. It's called the Strong Dad Project.
The Strong Dad Project.
Yeah. And it's...
and that's what they search if they want to find it online.
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
Strong Dad Project.
Absolutely. So most of the material's done through Instagram, shares to my personal Facebook page. I don't actually have a lot of channels.
But you're using your Instagram so effectively.
Yeah.
You've got some cool videos on there.
Yeah.
Little displays of your own strength, little snippets of motivational speaking. And then, of course, the actual product and how it can apply to dads who need it.
Yeah.
Skinny dads.
Yeah, especially. Basically, I just wanted to, the product applies to anyone who wants to build muscle, essentially. But I speak directly and specifically to skinny dads because that was my own journey, I was a naturally slim, skinny guy, struggled to put on weight, struggled to eat enough, trained for a long time, didn't feel that I was seeing the results, hard gainer would be the term that people would use, but really it's just a case of I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't know what I really needed to do in order to... It's an educational journey,
Absolutely. Isn't it? And people want the results so quickly, and sometimes they don't understand that it is an educational journey. You've got to gather that information.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think a big part of what I try to do is try to make people come to their own realizations, try to make people see the need to take initiative on themselves, to be a little bit resourceful in their own journey as well.
Some people have to learn that self-motivational aspect.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a big struggle for a lot of people.
Sure it is.
And I think we all have that in some aspect, It's like
I think so.
I struggle to motivate myself to do certain tasks that I should do.
Well, I'll be honest, I'm struggling with that right now after these look at that.
Yeah. Oh, man.
These operations and the shoulder and everything. The last one, they yanked out my bicep and reconnected it there.
Yeah.
And I'm struggling right now to stay motivated, but isn't it a case of the more you do it, the easier it becomes? I'm struggling right now, but I know because of experience, I'll get back on track.
Yeah. But
you help those who may not have the experience of getting on track in the first place.
Well, that's what I've found in my own life is when if there's something that I'm struggling with, it helps to reach out to someone who has went through the journey themselves, who can guide you and coach you through it. So that's what I try to do in this regard with skinny dads who want to put a bit of muscle on.
Well, again, you're doing it so well. You make it entertaining. You make it interesting. I'm not a skinny dad, but I follow what you're doing on Instagram because you make it so interesting. You make it. I like the way you put your personal story. You'll see a lot of so-called influencers or these big name personal trainers, and they make the whole story about them. You're making it about the client at the same time as you're inserting your own personal journey, which just makes it more motivational and interesting for people who are watching.
Yeah.
Where did you come up with this concept of this particular focus on men's health?
Again, I could say basically reached full capacity in the gym and what I'm able to do in person as a PT. So I wanted to expand into online and kind of reach out, help more people in that regard. But didn't really know how to do that. So what I actually done is I've hired a coach.
You hired a coach?
Yeah, of course. So I've hired a coach. Yeah, a guy who has done this before, who has built multiple successful
Here in
online
Norway?
Businesses. He is actually based in Canada.
Okay, yeah.
So we communicate online, well, mostly with his team. He has a large team that he works with a lot of people. But he has done this before and helped multiple other people do this, get their message out. And a big part of his advice was to kind of narrow down your content.
Not just be a personal trainer, but be a personal trainer for this particular segment.
Exactly.
Of course, you have abilities in all areas of health.
Absolutely.
But you're focusing on this one segment.
Yeah. And to kind of use your strengths and use your own story and use your own journey, because people will relate to that. People relate to people. Connect with that, exactly, yeah. And funny what you say about you following my content and stuff and not being a skinny dad. I actually had a girl in her early 20s message me the other day and say, your content's so strong that I want to sign up for your dad bod program.
Well, but you know what? But isn't that a testament to the universal? I mean, it's a universal thing.
Absolutely.
Health is universal. Health is health. Period.
Yeah.
And then you can start breaking it down into what's best for this and that other individual.
Exactly.
How do you, I would imagine there's a certain psychological aspect to being a personal trainer. How do you connect with that? How do you apply that to your clients?
For sure. I think for me, I think that's actually my greatest strength as a personal trainer, more so than my knowledge regarding training theory and anything like that.
I wouldn't expect to hear that from a personal trainer. Yeah. That's different.
I think my ability to connect with people has always been my greatest strength. That's what a lot of my clients say that they enjoy. They enjoy the training and they enjoy the results that they get, of course, but they enjoy the actual time with me as well. You know, so that was a really cool thing for me to hear. Well,
and that's one of the first things I noticed about you when I was training at the gym there. I think before I even said hello to you, I just saw how you were when you were dealing with people. And of course, there was a lot of focus and there was a lot of sweat, but there was also smiling and laughter and good conversation.
Yeah.
I'm like, who is this guy? And then I remember I went up and shook your hand, and turned out you were powerlifting at the time. So we had those things in common. And again, just the way you are with your, you're not this cold robot telling them to push harder.
Yeah.
You're putting that psychological, that social, that friendliness into it, which of course is going to make it more attractive for your clients.
I think so. And again, it's just the same thing for me too. I basically relate to my clients how I like to be related to. I don't like
do unto others.
Having exactly. I don't like having a domineering force over me.
Yeah.
I don't like someone telling me that I'm weak or and kind of the drill sergeant kind of aspect. So I treat them like people, like friends almost.
Isn't that the way to do it?
I think so. And now the struggle was then to how to translate that online when you don't actually get that.
So how did you do
time with people? So that was a process over about 2 years, because I've been doing online coaching for 2 years or so. Yeah, and it's kind of up and down. It's never really had a period of sustained growth. That was when I decided to reach out for help.
Yeah,
I seen this guy and I seen this guy's content and what
the Canadian
he was doing.
Coach.
And what he was doing and how he was helping people. And I reached out to him, signed up with his program, get some coaching myself that enables me and helps me to coach other people.
You invested in yourself.
Exactly, yeah. And then I now feel that I'm able much more, on a much better level to translate my personality online, I guess.
I think it's important. Social media. I think it's important. You're a true testament to this thing, the never-ending quest for more knowledge.
Yeah.
Even at your level of coaching, of being a personal trainer, you're still learning yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people, that's not a negative thing. I want to see that coach. I want to see that leader who is still trying to better their knowledge, still trying to gain ability.
That was actually a commitment I made to myself when I became a personal trainer. At first, I'd done my PT education, and I committed to myself that I would continue to educate myself for as long as my career lasts. I would never rest on my laurels. I would never settle on the knowledge that I had.
And that's boring. That's a boring life.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's always people that know more. I I find it very inspiring seeing people who are at higher levels of success than what I am. It sparks something in me, you know. I feel hungry for that. I feel hungry for progress,
and it shows.
Yeah, and so it's like a never-ending quest, like you say.
How do you tackle this thing with the client who? Because I've seen this in my time in the health industry. A client may come to me, which shows a certain level of motivation, but at the same time, they put very clear words on their frustration that they've pretty much given up. And now they're in my hands. They want me to fix them. With the thought that you're focusing on men of a certain age in a certain life situation, what kind of stories do you see? What levels of frustration do you meet, and how do you motivate that guy? Might be 35, maybe 40 years old, and he's kind of given up on his health.
Yeah.
How do you meet that person?
So the thing for me is I always try to communicate with guys that it's not going to be a smooth road. You know, there's so many variables, especially when you become a dad, and a lot of these guys are running their own businesses or quite high level careers and stuff like that. Lots of responsibilities, and then they're trying to juggle family life and marriage or relationships or wherever they are.
It's a lot to handle.
It is, you know, and it's there's a lot of stress that comes with that. There's a lot of pressure that comes with that. There's a lot of tiredness and frustration and everything that comes with that. And there's so many variables outside of our control, especially when the kids are small. There's sickness and sleepless nights and all these things that can impact your training. So I just try to outline that right from the start, make them aware of that this is not going to be a completely smooth process. There's going to be bumps in the road. The thing is that when we hit a speed bump, we don't let it completely derail us. You know, it might set us off track a little bit, get right back on at the next available opportunity and keep going.
Because that's life, isn't it?
Exactly,
Nothing is smooth in life.
Exactly.
We are made stronger by the challenges that we face. I'm the kind of guy, I enjoy the challenge.
Yeah.
Okay, here comes operation number 8 on my shoulder. I know I'm going to go down for the count for a while, but how am I going to get out of it? And that mental process of making a whole new trainings plan is motivational to me. But see, that's me after a lifetime of training and fitness. It's hard for most guys and ladies, most people, period. It's hard to have that kind of motivation. Where do you draw the line as a trainer between pushing the client and, you know, how do you know when to let up so that you don't, you and I are used to a certain intensity.
Yeah.
But that's not normal for most people. How do you approach that?
And for me, I don't even consider it my responsibility to push people too much. It's more so to show them the way. These people are adults that I'm working with, you know what I mean? I don't want to take anyone by the hand as such. I want to have a mature conversation with another grown-up. Yeah. And we can say, look, that's a good approach. This is what's required. Yeah. But you still have to take that responsibility. I can't drag you along. I can't get behind you and shove you along. I can't walk beside you. That kind of... I think that's the difference between a coach and like that drill sergeant type, I guess. Yeah, yeah. You know, some people want that drill sergeant. Absolutely.
I was 4 years in the United States Marines. I had my benefits of being bossed around and yelled at. But not everybody wants that in their day-to-day life. No, and it's not my style. It's not my personality type. You're too nice.
I don't know about that, but I just... like I say, I treat these people as adults, you know, because they are.
Well, that's a good starting point. That's a good starting point. You're not in charge of their life. You're their guide.
Exactly.
You're their guide,
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So they come to me. They want my help. I will tell them what needs to be done. I will certainly encourage them in it. And as I say, I try to kind of come alongside, you know, and walk alongside, but not to push, not to shove. And that's not to disregard that either, because like you say, that's very, very suitable for some people. But those people aren't going to come to me. They're going to go to someone who does that. Those people won't succeed with me. You know, my style won't work for everyone. There's people come, there's people go. Yeah. There's people stay. Yeah. You know, so it's very much, and I think that's the coaching relationship in general, and that's why I try to put as much of my personality and my style out on social media openly. Yeah. Because I don't want people to be under any illusions when they actually come to work with me of how things are going to be. And I outline this before I actually get a sign up, before a person actually goes from a prospect to a client. They get a pretty clear, or hopefully a very clear outline of actually how the process will look.
So you have a very structured pitch. You don't just take their money and get started.
Yeah.
You have a little discussion before.
A bit of a qualification process.
Yeah.
I obviously work to earn money to a degree,
Sure.
but I also work because it's my passion.
Yeah.
I don't want to take someone's money and not be able to help them. I don't want to steal from anyone.
And isn't that the blessing, to be able to make money off of something that is your passion?
Absolutely.
Isn't that something?
Absolutely. That's the dream.
I'm experiencing that now with my podcast, with my radio show.
Yeah.
Good God, I have a radio show.
Yeah.
And to be able to isn't that the blessing? And
Absolutely.
here you are, and your enthusiasm, again, it shows, it comes through, and I can only imagine how motivating that is to a client who has pretty much given up on their health.
Yeah.
That's a big responsibility.
Yeah, and for me, it's very much, that's why I talk a little bit about my own story and stuff as well, and my own struggles.
Yeah.
Because if you...
It's truth.
Yeah, it's truth. You show people where you struggle, and I still struggle to this day. My kids are small. I have that up and down.
Yeah,
all this thing that people are going through. I'm going through it myself, and there's times when I miss a training session, and like I said, it's to not let that become this big devastating catastrophe.
Yeah.
So many, especially people in the beginning, they think they miss one training session and everything is ruined. They've lost all the progress that they made previously.
Right.
And actually, if you just get right back on the track at the next available opopportunity and go for as long as you can, and you continue that process over a period of months and years and hopefully a whole lifetime.
And there's the benefits of you putting your story out there and being vocal about your struggles and challenges. It keeps it real.
Yeah.
The kids these days, let's keep it real. That is keeping it real.
Yeah.
Very much so. Can you grab me the coffee can there? Let me ask you to pour it for me. I have, I'm messed up in that arm. If you can unscrew it, this shows you how dead my arm is after. I think you got to screw it the other way. Maybe they do it different in Ireland. That's it.
I need to work on my grip.
You guys can't see this, but I'm struggling, and I have an excuse. I'm new operated in my shoulder. Andrew, what's your excuse? Why can't you open? There we go.
Need to work on my grip strength a little bit. Huh?
Would you be so kind as to pour that for me? No, but your grip strength, man, you had a period where you were putting these, and I was teasing you a little bit about it. You were putting these body weight exercises where you were doing chin ups and pull ups, and I gotta say I was a little jealous. Yeah. But I that right there was an example of how on paper, if you and I were to squat, bench, or deadlift, I'm going to do more.
Oh yeah.
But you and body weight relation are probably stronger than me in your upper body, which is really a fascinating aspect of strength that a lot of people don't understand. And I think examples like that can help that new beginner to understand that strength is a relative thing.
Yeah.
Fitness is a relative thing. There's a level of optimal fitness for a 50-year-old that is different than optimal fitness for a 30-year-old or even a 40-year-old.
Absolutely.
And I think people get too caught up in that comparison thing instead of thinking about themselves in a relative sense. Am I in better shape than I was last month? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
What do I need to do personally to fix my health?
Yeah, and I think that can be the danger. There's two ways comparison can work, because I like to look at people who are stronger than me, who are more successful than me.
Me too, yeah.
And it inspires me. It drives me.
Yes.
It lights something in it. It sparks
Absolutely.
something within me. But many people look at it and feel discouraged. So that's the kind of paradox of comparison, is if you can be inspired by it, it's a positive thing. If you find it discouraging and demotivating, it's a negative thing. So again, this is the constant challenge and the constant interesting thing of coaching, is meeting these different personalities and finding out what makes someone tick, what motivates someone, what demotivates someone, and the same thing can.
And there's the psychological, the dynamic psychological aspect of what you do.
Absolutely,
you've got to be awake, and you got to pay attention to that psychological aspect, and then cater to that client's needs.
Yeah.
I would imagine. I know I experienced this when I was a personal trainer. You have that client who comes and they throw their money at you and they book a bunch of training sessions and then they don't show up.
Yeah.
Where do you draw the line? Again, you're not the type of trainer who pushes people, but I'm sure you will take contact. You'll reach out to that person.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how far do you take that before you just, hey, they've made their decision, they're gone now?
Yeah. again, I don't really have any set in stone rules. I treat everyone on an individual
Come into
basis.
the mic a little bit closer. I'm sorry. There you
go. So for me, again, a lot of that comes down to the qualification process now as well. In the beginning as a trainer, it was just like someone wanted to pay me to train them, sign them up, you know what I mean?
Now you have to make a living.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to build a reputation.
Absolutely. And now I'm actually in a position where I don't hunt for clients anymore.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's business kind of roles. I get people come to me via referrals, or they've heard about me, or they've seen me coaching other people, and they come and they want to sign up. So now I have a very much more, I can be a little bit more selective, and be almost try, not necessarily try to scare people away, but make people see before they sign the contract what the process requires. Exactly, yeah. And if they're not sure that they can actually commit to what is required, then they don't sign up. You know, it scares them off, or I say maybe you're not ready for this.
It's good to see an honest personal trainer, because unfortunately there are way too many who just want the money. And again, one must make a living. Yeah. Okay. One has to build a reputation, and to do that you need clients. But just to see a personal trainer who's maybe 10 years into the game and has a full client list, but they still just kind of, there's a level of honesty that's missing in some of them.
And I guess that
it makes people skeptical.
Any industry, yeah.
Well, it makes people very skeptical, and it's a shame that people like you have to kind of deal with that. Yeah. You know, that's not your fault. That's others.
And it's and that's something that's difficult, especially in the beginning, in the early stages. You know, I really threw myself into becoming the best possible PT that I could be, right from the start, because this is the only thing that I have any sort of relevant or relative competence at, you know. And
you got nothing else to fall back on. So, he's desperate, folks. He's desperate. That's what he's saying. He's desperate.
I kind of was when I moved here, you know what I mean? This was the only thing that I really know how to do. It's kind of all I've put myself into.
You came here to Norway from
Northern Ireland.
From Northern Ireland in what year?
2015.
2015.
Yeah. 6 years ago. It'll be
7 years ago. Tell me about that. Why? Was it love? There you go. Show the ring. That'll be a good screenshot. We're waving our rings at the camera there. These Norwegian women.
I know, man.
What is this, man?
Temptress.
So how did you guys meet?
We actually met online.
Okay.
We met on a forum. We both write a little bit. I do most of my writing now through my social media. Yeah. So we were writing.
What kind of writing does she do?
Poetry.
Beautiful.
Mostly poetry.
Beautiful.
Yeah. She writes in English, actually.
Okay. Interesting.
So that was how we got to communicate. Yeah. We started chatting back and forward there. Then we started emailing, because we were writing these like big, huge digital love letters. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like this. Kind of long distance relationship for the digital age, you know.
So how long were you guys rapping back and forth before you actually met her?
About this, I think.
Mad about you. Yeah.
4 or 5 months.
Okay. So you really built it up.
Yeah. It was a really nice way actually to develop our relationship, man, because it was just we kind of had the computer screen and the distance between us, so it took the guard down a little bit, you know. You could be a little bit more open. We got to know each other very, very well through like emails and texts and social media messages and things like that before we ever actually met in person. So it was I'd never had a relationship develop like that before, you know, so it was quite special.
So when you guys finally met, did she come to you or did you come here?
She came to me. She came to
look
man,
at that. Hey, the fella's got game. This brother's got game. They come to him.
Man, that's how it goes, man. They take flights, you know.
I love it. When I meet your wife eventually, I'm going to tease her about that. So you had to come to him, huh? I'm going to cause a little trouble. I'm going to cause a little trouble, man. Well, is she still a writer? Is she still doing poetry?
She doesn't do so much now. She says she's too happy now to.
How sweet! How sweet!
She's too happy now to write. So I guess I'm doing something right, huh?
I love it, man.
So I offered to fly here, of course, because you know I kind of thought, even though we've been chatting back and forth, there's all these catfish situations and stuff. You know, you see all these TV shows about this stuff, and
But Norwegian women are tough like that.
Man. So
Snoopy is the same way. She was young. She was still a teenager and traveling alone all over the world and stuff. And she was in the United States, and she's like walking through Skid Row in Los Angeles and stuff. That's Norwegian. They're kind of tough like that.
I love that about Norwegian culture, man. And I think it's the
different.
kind of ruggedness of the terrain and the very outdoor focused people.
Yeah.
Then there's obviously the dark and the cold of the winters and stuff like that. And I think
man,
all of that,
I love it.
All of that kind of contributes to this.
It's different. It's an otherworldly aspect.
Absolutely, this extra toughness that you say. So I had offered to come here because of that reason, because I thought it maybe would be a little frightening to kind of fly, not across the world, but it's a 2-hour flight.
Yeah. But she was ready to.
And jumped on a flight.
And then this, that, and the other happened.
So then we were doing kind of every 3 weeks or so.
Yeah.
Flying back and forward for the weekend, any holidays, stuff like that. We did that for probably another 3-4 months, I guess.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I made the move here. It developed very, very fast.
I love it. That's a real love story,
man. Yeah, it was quite
very similar to how I met Snoopy. Yeah. Let me ask you, how was life for you in Northern Ireland, though? What city were you in?
I was in a town called Lurgan.
Oh, God. Not a city, but a town.
No, we don't have so many cities, man. We've got Belfast. I mean, Northern Ireland's like this size,
What was I thinking?
So we have Belfast as the capital. We have a few other cities that are titled as cities.
But
most people from around the world would call them large towns.
Yeah. But what was life like for you there?
There's a question. I love my hometown. I love the people there.
Yeah.
I don't miss it.
Okay.
I guess I went through a lot of challenges there. In many ways. It's a working class town.
I was gonna say if I could go by the stereotype, I would think working class, not a lot of money, but not poor.
Yeah.
Kind of middle of the road and plenty of struggles.
Certainly on a worldwide scale, when you look at worldwide poverty.
Yeah.
But poor compared to what you would see maybe more so in the middle classes and the upper classes in England, for example.
Right,
we don't have that so much in Northern Ireland. No. We have the working class and the slightly above working class.
Yeah. That's Northern Ireland.
Yeah. So we have the working class on benefits and then the working class who work.
Did you have anyone in your family who was involved in politics? There's always been this off and on volatile political situation.
Actually, I was quite sheltered from that growing up.
Were you? Okay.
Yeah, it's funny because...
To your benefit, would you say?
Yeah, for sure. Because we had this political situation. I didn't have anyone in my family that was involved in that.
No.
Even though
Let me get you into the mic a little bit more.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Even though I grew up in a Protestant, loyalist, British, working class estate, council estate. These rows and rows of houses that all look identical.
Yeah.
And
it's so strange,
and that's the funny thing.
To me, as a non-Northern Islander, it's so strange.
Yeah, and we actually have these segregated communities, So
Protestant,
Catholic, and British and Irish, So, so I grew up surrounded by all the British regalia and stuff, and always, I'm British. Everyone abroad calls me Irish.
Yeah.
But my identity, what I feel, is British. Yeah, because that's how I grew up. I grew up with the British flag, the Union flag flying from every lamppost. And the curbstones on the edge of the footpaths were all painted red, white, and blue. We had all these.
It's very distinct from what I understand. It's very. I mean, it's almost like a line drawn in the sand. It's very distinct. The loyalists versus the Protestant, Protestant versus the Catholic. It's very clear who's who.
And it really was when I was growing up in the 90s, because we still had the conflict was still going on. So now there's been
the 90s. Just tell everyone you think I'm old, okay? That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
If I'm reading between the lines.
So, I feel quite old myself.
Hey, I'm 52 and proud of it.
Yeah. Life gets better. You don't. Life gets better with the age, man. I honestly
think so.
Believe that.
Age is relative.
I honestly
I'm sorry to
interrupt.
interrupt. I got to be silly sometimes.
And this is what it's about, isn't it?
Let's have fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's there was that really clear segregation and dividing line. I mean, our town literally had like an invisible line in the middle, where you had the Protestant end of the town and you had the Catholic end of the town. And it was very rare that someone would venture over the lines. You know what I mean?
Because it was almost like Well, not almost. Wasn't it pretty much literally a gang type of situation where it's us and them?
And even more so than that, it was paramilitary. It was much more organized than just kind of street gangs. Yeah. So
especially back then.
Yeah. So now things are,
it's loosened up a little, from what I understand. Yeah. But back then, it was that paramilitary, that us versus them line in the sand type of thing. Did you feel safe? Did you ever feel threatened? Did you have any social relations with the other side? And I put that in air quotes.
Yeah, I did, because funnily enough, I was from one of the few families that kind of had mixed relationships in it. Okay. So I had my uncles who were Protestants, were in relationships with Catholic women, married to Catholic women.
How did that go over? Was that...
Quite all right, actually. It was.
You didn't feel any heat because your family was.
Because no one in my estate knew so much. That was something I wouldn't broadcast,
Okay,
and
I see.
And this tends to happen where families that mix these mixed relationships, they would move far out into the countryside. They wouldn't live in the town anymore.
Okay. Self-preservation.
Yeah,
simply.
Yeah, for the most part, So, but yeah, I mean, for me growing up, I think about it sometimes now because I look at life in Norway and stuff, and but it was just very normal at the time. We had the army patrol in the streets, we had police out all the time in armored vehicles and stuff, and it was just, and you just knew that kind of this was our end of town and this was their end of town, and
they say that people that grow up in situations like that, or even kids who are growing up in a war zone, of course the trauma and the stress is there, but they come. They adapt in a way to where they don't consciously feel that. Yeah. But they may feel it later when they come out of that situation. Did you ever have this moment where you're like, oh my God, I actually used to live like that?
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit being in Norway and stuff because
it is different here. It's
absolutely.
Total different sense of safety and comfort.
I am such a huge fan and proponent of Norwegian society. I think it's amazing.
I make fun of it a lot, but it's good.
Of course,
life is good. I'm terribly homesick. You say you don't miss being back home. I miss being back home, but it's not like there's something pulling me there. It's not like I want to drop everything, because life is good here. Yeah, I have to say that life is good here. Norwegian society is good. It's not perfect, but it is good.
Oh, of course. I don't think there is a perfect society, you know what I mean? And I don't
believe that either.
I think Norwegian society is about as close as it gets, and there's obviously always room for improvements.
Well, and the thing is and maybe I'm naive, but I get the impression that the Norwegian government or the Norwegian system means well. Yeah. Whereas when I go and put my eyes on my home country, the United States, I feel like there are people at the top there that don't mean well for society. They want to cause a little chaos for their own political benefit. Yeah. But I just don't see that here in Norway, and it's such a relief.
Yeah, it's that kind of societal trust.
Yeah.
That is kind
societal trust.
Yeah, it's kind of it's woven into the fabric here, I think. So it's amazing for me when I see when I drive through the countryside where I live, hillbilly country. I know you like to make fun of Scots Elf.
Oh gosh, I'm so sorry.
It's good, man.
I'm going to make Scots Elf famous. I'm going to make Scots Elf famous.
Yeah, let's put it on the map, man. And when you have these little stalls and stuff set out where people just set out boxes of eggs, and then there's just a box to leave money, or there's a number to kind of send VIPs, which is like Norwegian PayPal. And you just take your eggs, and the people trust you to just send them money.
It's so charming.
Yeah, and that would never happen where I'm from. You know what I mean? That stall would all be stolen from and probably be racked and set on fire.
I've seen apple orchards out in Lier and out in Hokksund, and they'll just put the apples in a bag and hang it on their fence line, and then people can just text the money and take
crazy.
it. It's so charming.
That's insane to me.
It's very quaint. It's very old-timey. Yeah. And it used to be like that back in my hometown, back in the day, and to a certain degree it still is, but back home it's rare to have things like that.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's so normal and it's so charming. Yeah. I wonder if the Norwegian people appreciate that, though.
I guess if they have experienced other cultures,
if they've
maybe they do.
Cultures, yeah.
But yeah, I think I think I would feel the same if I grew up in this culture. I'd probably take a lot of it for granted. Yeah. Where for me, I think it's amazing. I think the trust, the level of safety, and a lot of people, I couldn't believe it the first time I went to work in Oslo. When I first moved here, I worked in Oslo, and I took the train into Oslo at like 5 o'clock in the morning for my early morning session, and none of the shops had metal shutters over the windows or anything.
Yeah. Little things like that.
Yeah, and I was like, what?
See, now when you mention that, it's like, yeah, it is like that.
Every shop shuts down in the UK.
Yeah.
You know, the metal shutters that come down so people don't smash the windows, so people don't break in. And
Norway has this simple,
there's a charm about it, like you said,
charming type of thing.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know that they really understand how. I think they take a lot of it for granted. I really do. And again, unless they've been somewhere, unless they've traveled, and like Snoopy lived for a couple of years as an exchange student in the United States when she was younger, and then she lived there with me for about 2.5 years before we came here. Mm-hmm. So she's seen that. And she has a different awareness than what most Norwegians have when it comes to those kind of things. But that's because she lived in the United States for a while.
So, and that's one of the benefits, of course, of being able to travel the world. I think travel and experience in other countries, it really opens your eyes. It
sure does. And I wish more people would do it. I think a lot of the problems that we have, both in the UK and especially in the United States, a lot of the problems that are there are because people don't have a broader perspective.
Yeah.
They haven't been anywhere. They think they've seen everything, but my God, they're not even close. Yeah, they don't understand. For example, people will label Norway as a socialist country as if that's some sort of evil thing. Well, first of all, it's a social democracy or a democratic socialist country, which is a totally different thing than Marxist socialism. And there's of course, things aren't perfect here, but there's very little to criticize about the social system here in Norway.
Yeah. People get looked after.
Well, quite the opposite of criticizing it. Yeah, I know people back home who are struggling. Some of them have gone bankrupt and lost their homes because of medical bills that they have to pay.
That's
and
crazy.
We don't have to think about that here in Norway. Yeah. We just don't have to. It's not an issue. Yeah. We're going to be taken care of. Yeah. Well, and taking care of may be the wrong word because we pay into that system, so we're getting what we paid for.
Absolutely.
Which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and as it should be.
As it should be.
You know. As I said, Norway has quite a high tax rate, but
I pay it willfully.
Yeah. However, it comes back, I think.
However, when I first came here and I started working almost right away. I got a job within a month after I got here, and I stayed on my summer vacation up at our place up in Finnmark, and then I started working, and then I got that first paycheck, and I'm like, good God, they take this much in taxes? Yeah. And it was a shock because I wasn't used to that. But I calmed down very quickly when I realized that the money that I still had after that tax was more than enough to live on. Yeah. More than enough.
Yeah.
We didn't have kids at the time, but it was just Anne Elizabeth and I. But the money that I had left was more than enough.
Yeah.
And what I got for that, I would have my first doctor's appointment. I'm like, really? I don't have to pay?
Yeah.
Or I think it was, I paid like the equivalent of like $20.
Yeah, it's 200 kroner or something, isn't it?
It's like, that's it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll pay these taxes, So it's all relative.
Yeah,
and it has to do with worldview. It has to do with
society.
Perspective. A lot of people are kind of closed off to what's outside of their little box.
And I think I always get the impression about American citizens is most Americans, at least from my perspective, and I can't say most Americans because I don't know, but how it looks to me is most Americans holiday and travel within the US.
Yes.
They rarely travel outside of the US, so it's so they are kind of in that.
But there's a reason for that. People have to remember America is huge
country as well.
So to travel from where I'm from in Ohio, out to California is a genuine vacation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I completely get that. Yeah.
So but I will acknowledge the limitations of that when it comes to worldview.
Yeah.
Advantages, disadvantages. It's just the way it is in the United States.
And I'm sure things are different across the states, but ultimately it's all underneath the same cultural umbrella
for the most part. Yeah.
So it's you're not really getting outside of that, even though you might go and see different scenery and meet different kinds of people and stuff like that.
And I get that that's the way it is, but I wish more Americans would acknowledge that that's the way it is, and that they would also acknowledge the limitations that incorporates.
Yeah.
You don't know if you've only traveled from Ohio to Indiana, which is the next state over, you don't know that much about the world. No. You really don't.
No.
And you're not going to learn much about the world from watching the news.
No.
You've got to get out there and experience it, because everything's going to be a little twisted when you're watching it on TV.
I don't follow any news channels whatsoever.
I do, in the sense that it's world events and social issues come up in my podcast and whatnot. So I do follow.
I understand
but it's important, and I make sure that I get it from different sources.
Yeah.
To then take the next step and interpret what I hear. And I think that's what's missing with a lot of people. They hear something on the news and they don't bother to try and interpret it. They just take what they're hearing, and that's gospel.
Yeah.
And you just can't do it that way.
Yeah, especially when you have these kind of tribalist news outlets, that kind of taint one way or the other.
Yeah, it's terrible.
And kind of paint things one way or the other to fit whatever their agenda is. I think that's very dangerous, because if you just kind of only get your news from the one source, and
you're missing
kind of
so
twisted,
much.
Yeah. And I think that works on both sides of the spectrum.
Absolutely, it does. I try to think of myself, or I do think of myself, as not as a consumer of news, but as an interpreter of news. I like to hear something and then do a little bit of research and figure out, what's the other side saying about this same issue?
Yeah.
And that's where one can learn. That's where one can continue to be inquisitive instead of being indoctrinated.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with news today. People get indoctrinated.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even
it's
in
sad.
Politics and stuff as well is
sure.
It's if you find too much of an identity in whatever party that you support, it's easy to be just swayed with whatever beliefs.
Absolutely.
I prefer to kind of go by my own value system.
Yeah.
And that may align with one side one day and one with the other, because it's not these opposing parties aren't necessarily always. They're always in disagreement, but I'm not necessarily always in agreement with one side or the other.
That's very true. Yeah.
And that's the importance for me. I prefer to go off my own sort of moral compass.
Yeah, I lean more to the left. I'm more of a Democrat, but I don't agree with everything they're doing by far.
Yeah, I've seen a few of your posts recently where you've actually been criticizing the Democrat Party a little bit, and I find that very encouraging, actually, because
I try.
It's important not to, I think.
Yeah, well, thank you for
get
that.
too much of an identity in one particular.
Thank you for commenting on that, but it speaks to my inquisitiveness. It speaks to me being an interpreter of the news, not a consumer of the news. But you said something about your own personal values. Do you have an influence or a main influence in your life who guided you towards this worldview, this social view, this moral fiber that is you?
A lot of positive influences, I guess. I was part of the reason why being a dad and the dad thing is so important to me is I was raised by a single mother. So my mum raised me alone. My dad wasn't in the picture very much.
I see.
We talk from time to time now. We are actually in contact. But he wasn't around a lot when I was actually growing up. So I had my mum, obviously, was a huge influence on me.
Hats off to the mothers.
Yeah, I want
hi,
to give
Mom.
a big shout out because
I'm saying hi to my mother.
Yeah.
She doesn't have the internet. She doesn't even have a cell phone, so she's never going to see this. But hi, Mom.
Yeah. But
she's such a hillbilly.
But I should make sure that my mum knows how much I appreciate her because we've had friction throughout the years as well. I was not an easy kid to raise on her own, and she always worked. She didn't rely on the system or anything like that. Not that that's wrong, but that was her. That was her personal pride. So she worked.
Well, she must have done something right because you turned into this beautiful person that you are, and I say that. I think you're a wonderful person. You're one of my favorite people to talk to. I've missed you over the last year and a half, 2 years almost. But you've turned into this beautiful person who is so positive. You're so giving of your time to others. And you're putting a consistent positive message out there. And I've been thinking there has to be someone who has been the main influence of that. You know, we usually try to mirror those who we admire, and it comes out in things like what you're doing. Yeah. So your mother's
she's been the most consistent influence throughout my life. She's even at the times when we really were butting heads and having a lot of friction. When it came down to it, she was the one there, So
now this is friction when you were a child, right?
Yeah, and teenager, and more so as a teenager, and and even into my early 20s, you know,
you were a rebellious little cuss,
I was a bit
you?
of a wild man, you know. So yeah, I mean, we had our moments, but I love my mum very much.
Yeah.
I hope she knows that. And as I say, she's been the most consistent influence throughout my life. Aside from that, there was a big influence from many youth workers in my life. We used to, a crowd of guys and girls. We used to hang out on the street as young teens, you know, and drink cheap wine and stuff like that. And we had these like outreach youth workers that would come from different groups, from the YMCA and from different churches and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And many of those guys I'm still actually in touch with today and still quite close with today. Yeah, I even spent a period of time when I was like 19. One of them actually took me in this home because I was really struggling. Yeah, I was living on my own. I'd moved out from my mum's. And I always had this struggle with alcohol and drugs and stuff like that when I was younger. I could never quite escape it. I would go through periods where I would do really well, but it was always it was a cycle, you know.
Would you consider yourself an addict in that period?
To a degree, yeah. Not to.
You were obviously able to come out of it.
Yeah. So not to the degree where I like really, really physically needed it, you know. But it was more like a mental thing. It was a mental
crutch.
Yeah, exactly. It was an escape. Really struggled with myself as a person for a long, long time throughout that period from my early teens, I guess, and probably from even before, from my childhood, until my kind of, well, I could say even until now, you know, I'm on an upward spiral, an upward journey, but I still have my moments, you know, of, so that's why mental health in my message is is a strong influence as well, because it's something I've experienced very, very strongly throughout my adult life. Majorly throughout my adult life, but even as a child. And my mum even says now, looking back, you know, mental health people weren't so aware of mental health issues 30 years ago.
Not at all.
You know, or 25 to 30 years ago.
I think of some of the stuff I went through as a police officer, there should have been counseling.
Yeah.
But there wasn't.
No.
It just didn't happen.
So there's much more awareness around it now. My mum says, actually, looking back now, she could probably see signs of me as a child, even, you know, of like depression and anxiety and stuff like that, you know, but people weren't aware of it at the time, so she just
here's another admirable
thought I was sad, I guess.
Yeah. Well, here's another admirable thing about you. You don't hold back from talking about your own mental health. I also talk about my own mental health. You know, the anniversary of my son's death is coming up in just a couple of days, and I talk about that, and I talk about my struggle and how I deal with it, in the hope is that it can help someone else who's going through something similar. Is that kind of the reason why you put your story out there?
Absolutely. For one side, in a selfish sense, it's somewhat therapeutic as well.
Oh, it's
actually.
very therapeutic.
I think,
I also say that I'm a little selfish. I'm a little bit of an egoist by putting it, because it makes me feel better. It's self-therapy.
But I also know that I know many, many people going through struggles like I experienced. And still do experience.
But not everybody will talk about
it. No, and I think for me it took a time to get to this place, you know. I remember talking about these things early on in the process, and it set me back a little bit.
Okay.
I found that I started to like relive those experiences and had those negative emotions again, actually. So I think that's the kind of line that you have to toe with therapy.
Because there's always a little bit of recall.
So you can almost end up in a loop.
Yes.
You know, so, and I found myself there in the early stages. And so for a long time, I kind of had to just keep my head down, shut up, keep quiet about it, and work my way through it.
Yeah.
Now, I'm stronger. I can say that. I am more at peace. I'm overall happier and more content in life. So it's easier for me to talk about now, and it's in the past. You know what I mean?
Right.
As I say, of course I have the moments now, but I'm not living through it so much anymore.
Yeah.
So it's easier to actually talk about without it kind of knocking me on my ass, you know,
right,
if I can say that.
Right, yeah. Oh, you can swear on
that. That's good, because I slip out sometimes, man. I'm being really conscious here to keep it in.
No, you don't have to keep it clean. No censorship whatsoever. Well, maybe for the radio portion.
Don't say that, because, man, I'll flip a switch like that. I'll go complete British working class, man, and every second word, you know.
I love it, man. I have to say, man, you're I'm very fascinated with language, accents and dialects. I just love hearing you talk, man. I'm probably going to pay you like $100 and have you record like a bedtime story. I can listen to it
talked
every
about
night.
this before.
I love it. And I have to say, whenever I talk about you to people, I switch over into my parody of a Northern Ireland accent.
That's okay with me, man.
And but I tease because I love.
That's very much our cultural personality type. Anyway, we're very self-depreciating. We tend to poke fun at the people that we're most fond of. So we say that actually in Northern Ireland, that if someone from outside Northern Ireland comes and hears us talking to our loved ones, they think that we hate them, you know, because you insult them excessively.
Well, you know, and that's what I see in the stand-up community. Doing my stand-up, we can be so harsh.
And man, that's humor. I think, you know, as long as it's you know, harshness said with love is like it's.
And you have to be mature enough to know the difference.
Absolutely,
but we know,
and also to communicate the difference, because many people just speak harsh, and that doesn't go down well with anyone.
No, but you have to get to, you know, when you get to know people, you know the nuances.
Exactly.
You know their intent. And
exactly. And that's the one thing I would say about Norwegian culture. That's a little bit probably one challenging thing I find in assimilating with Norwegian culture is they don't know that so much. They don't have that kind of insulting humor. If you insult someone, it's
an insult.
To insult.
Period.
And my wife loves it now. She thinks it's the funniest thing ever. We insult each other back and forth all the time, and she thinks it's hilarious. And she's really good at it, actually.
and it
so
took
I'm
Snoopy,
glad I opened her up. to that.
It took Snoopy a while to get there. I call her Snoopy. Some people say that's an insult. In fact, I've had people comment directly to me that I need to leave my wife alone. Why don't you call her by her name? You know, Norwegians who don't understand the love behind the teasing right there. But I've called her Snoopy since day one. She's Snoopy. You know. So.
And it's it's amazing. It's amazing when you develop that relationship with someone, and that's I mean, in the past. In the past 7 or 8 years, the biggest influence in my life has been my wife. Actually, I should make sure to say that. Yeah,
and isn't that a beautiful thing? A lot of guys are too tough to say that. They're too tough to even realize it, much less say it. But a man who is in balance, and kind of talking about mental health, a man who is in balance and knows his own weaknesses will then be more aware of his spouse's strengths. I believe that. I truly believe that. Yeah,
that's beautiful.
It's we're lucky with these ladies.
Yeah, absolutely.
and Norwegian women are different. I will say that to my dying day. Not better. I don't want to insult anyone back home, but Norwegian women have a certain independence, a certain steadfast approach to life and things that is extremely attractive. Or I find that extremely attractive in my wife anyway.
So, me too, man. It's
there's no games. There's a certain amount of game time that's just gone.
I think they are better. I'll insult every woman back home and say
He said it, you guys. And his home address is.
I'm far enough away now that I can do it.
He's way out, and he's out in the. It is underneath the prison in Scotland.
Good luck finding him.
Under the prison in Scotland.
So, but yeah, man, the level of growth that I've achieved in the time that I've been with my wife has been exponential.
They keep us in balance. They keep us honest. They keep us. I'll say Snoopy is so good to me. She makes me be a little bit conceited in that I have to perfect a few things in myself to make myself, can I use the word, worthy of her love? And I love her for that. She pushes me to be better. She pushes me to stay focused. I wouldn't be on this microphone. I wouldn't be doing my podcast or my radio show if it wasn't for her pushing me in that direction. She saw something in me that would fit for what I'm doing now. And I didn't even see it myself.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of my marriage to her. She sees things in me that I don't even see myself.
Yeah.
Isn't that what a good woman does?
Absolutely. And that's
I get chills saying it. I mean, it sounds, to some guys out there, this may sound corny. It may sound, but this is the truth. And these are the things I think of when I think of my relationship with my wife.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's and I feel very much the same about my marriage with Annalena. It's she has encouraged me when I need to be encouraged, and she challenges me when I need to be challenged.
And you're man enough to take that challenge, because that is also an issue of self-assuredness and a sense of security about yourself, that you can have that conversation where she's maybe correcting you.
Yeah. And I think
a lot of men won't tolerate that.
And I think unfortunately, my wife's she's 1 year and a bit older than me, and I make sure to make her feel it every day. But I think with that year and a bit, she's got that little bit extra wisdom as well. So I'm very, it's I think. For me, I consider myself a pretty masculine guy, but our marriage is very much a partnership, and I value my wife's opinion more than anyone else on this earth, I think, I
don't make a single meaningful decision without consulting her first, and if it doesn't fit for her, then I won't do it.
Yeah.
It's really that simple.
And it's and there's the openness, the ability to have discussion, too.
It's beautiful when it's that way.
So it's not just
and you're not giving anything up. You're not giving up anything as a man to have that type of a consultation with your wife. And unfortunately, there's still a lot of guys who feel, they'll pound their chest, head of the household.
Thing,
head of the household. Okay, I feel a responsibility to, there's a certain protective role that I play. There's a certain guidance role that I play, but all of that is in symbiosis with Snoopy's wishes and with her thoughts and her needs.
Absolutely. And I think it was a former pastor of mine actually that said one time, if the man is the head of the household, then the woman is the heart.
Well,
and I really like that,
that's beautiful.
And that's very much how our relationship is. I think I feel the same way. I feel responsible for the traditional masculine role to protect and provide. My wife is amazing at doing the caring and nurturing side of it. It's those people might want to say it's the traditional or stereotypical masculine feminine roles, but I think there's a biological element to that.
I do believe that,
and
but that's not to say that a father's love is less meaningful than a mother's.
No, not
I'm
at
also
all.
a very big proponent of that, because there is a narrative out there, and again, to me, it's a little hypocritical. You may have the strong feminist who believes in, the strength of women, as do I. But then they will also prioritize the love of a mother over the love of a father, and I don't understand that.
No, and that's the thing again with identifying too strongly in with a certain tribe or a certain title.
Yes,
that's where I think why I would never call myself this or that or that.
Yeah, doesn't it just boil down to just being nice?
Exactly,
just be a good guy. Just be nice.
Yeah, and it's and more so than that, even more so than nice. There's because I think there's a time and a place not to be nice as well. You know what I mean?
Of course. I'm guilty of not being harsh when I should be.
So it's being well-rounded, I guess, and kind of being a good person and operating from a place of I don't want to just say positivity either, because that sounds so kind of woo-woo kind of thing, I don't, but operating from a place of integrity. That's the word I'm looking for.
Integrity, balance.
That having these values that you abide by. Yeah. And man, like you say, this does not, because I fulfill the masculine role, does not mean I'm hard or cold with my kids. I cuddle my kids. I love them. I tell them I love them every day. I kiss them.
How old are they?
5 and 3. My daughter will be 4 actually.
Such a beautiful age.
Yeah. She will be 4 on Saturday.
That's when they were little and cute and they still smell like a baby.
Yeah.
Our Snoopy and I, our daughter is 16. Our son is soon 14, and now they have smelly feet, and bad breath and stuff. But you still hug them every once in a while.
Yeah, man. They'll always be the babies. I guess.
But again, a father's love is very often minimalized, and I speak out about that because it's just as important as it is as a mother's love.
Yeah, well, I experienced that in my childhood, you know what I mean? I missed out on that.
I haven't spoken to my father in a few decades.
So there we go. I guess we know that.
Yeah,
we know that
exactly.
from personal experience.
Exactly.
And to emphasize the role of a father figure, a dad, a masculine man, a leader, is not to diminish or is not to the detriment of the feminine role. The two things complement each other beautifully. Yes. I think that's what we find in our marriage.
Yep.
We didn't sit down and discuss these roles. We kind of naturally assumed
them. And that's the beauty of your marriage. It just happened that way. It just, you guys found that symbiosis.
Yeah, and we've talked about it since because we realised that we kind of just fell into this
same
pattern.
thing with Snoopy and I.
It was very natural, you know.
A lot of those things, the family path, if you will, we just kind of started walking it the same way without a discussion.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
It really is, yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
I think it's yin and yang, masculine, feminine, whatever you want to call it. The two things complement each other, black and white.
Northern Irish, Black American.
It's the two things complement each other beautifully.
Sure.
They are not in opposition.
Let me ask you this: going back to your life as a personal trainer and coach, what is your day like? Do you have so many clients that it's a constant daily grind?
Yeah.
Or are you more...
Now it's much more controlled. I say now I'm in a position where I can be more selective with who I work with. I can be more selective with the hours that I work. Yeah. In the early stages, the personal training industry is quite a ruthless industry. You make it or you don't. And there's something like a 90% rate of qualified personal trainers don't make it past 1 year.
Is it that high?
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's it's up towards, I think it's actually slightly over 90%. I
have even
statistic.
more respect for you now.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that ruthless.
So
and
it's the first year or 2 years. And
wow.
So it's because it's an industry too where you have no guaranteed salary. It's very much, you can be employed by a gym, but you are very much left to fend for yourself as an entrepreneur almost,
Yes.
And that's what I try to communicate to new personal trainers coming up, because now I'm one of the more experienced trainers in the gym where I work. Is to not think of yourself as an employee, but think of yourself as a business, And a business requires, there has to be an investment put in first. Most businesses, that's a financial investment.
Yeah.
With PT, it's time investment.
Right.
You can't just not be at the gym when you don't have clients in the early stages. You have to be there. People have to get to know you. Yeah. People that's your form of marketing,
Yes.
So I spent my time when I wasn't working with people. I would spend an extra hour or two in the gym, walk on the floor, talking to people.
Yeah.
I would train in the gym and just talk to the people beside me at the rack.
You were so good at being social. I remember that when I was there. Yeah.
And very quickly, everyone in the gym knew who I was.
That's right.
And that's and then again when it comes to time, I never tried to sell anyone in that regard. I was literally just trying to get to know people.
Yeah.
And just having genuine conversation. But then when the time comes that someone decides, maybe I want to work with a PT, or that guy, they see me working a little bit and go, they're always going to select the PT that they know. They're going to select the PT that they have seen, that they trust. They're not going to go and knock at your door when you're at home and say, "Will you come to the gym and train me?" They're going to go to the guy who's in the gym.
And they're buying into your personality to a certain degree. So that whole thing with being social and getting to know them is quite important.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to ask kind of about what kind of scheduling you have and what kind of not how many clients, but how busy you are with your. I mean, you're sitting here fucking around with me instead of being at the gym. But I would imagine it's somewhat of a more relaxed situation than it is now.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I'm sorry, more relaxed situation now than it was then.
Before.
Sorry.
Yeah, 100%. So as I said, now I'm not on the hunt for business so much, in terms of what goes on in the gym, it's very much referrals and stuff like that. So most of my clients are now long-term clients too. I can't remember the last time I signed someone up for a contract that then didn't renew their contract again when the original contract ended.
Nice.
So
that says a lot.
I have a lot of recurring business.
Yeah, that says a lot.
Yeah.
Good.
I always I take that as a huge compliment to what I do. So that's quite nice. So now it's basically more just about structure in my schedule, and I try to be flexible with people, of course. What I do now.
Do you have a cutoff time?
Not so much, but what I do now is I try to do 3 daytimes, 3 morning daytimes,
okay,
and then 2 evenings.
Okay.
So I used to do early morning to evening, almost
yeah,
every day.
Yeah.
In the initial stages, when I first started out, in the very first gym I worked at, and also the first months I was there 16 hours a day, Monday to Friday.
That's a long day.
And my first paycheck at the end of my first month was 3,000 kroner.
Oh,
man! And
talk about a time investment.
Yeah, so that's what I'm talking about, and that's what I try to communicate. To up and coming trainers is it requires that. It's a business. It's the same as, like I say, most other businesses. They have to put in large financial capital. We don't have to do that. We have to pay for a qualification. Once you've done that, that's pretty much the financial investment done. But it's the time investment then, and it's putting that in reaps its rewards over time. So I've actually went through 4 gyms. This gym that I work at now in Drummond is the 4th gym I've worked at since I've been in Norway.
And the best one, I would say.
Yeah.
Say it. Yeah. There you go. I love that gym. I've seen that gym develop through the years. I was there for the first time in 2000 when I was here on vacation to visit Snoopy before we were married. So I've seen that place grow and change. But what is really cool about it is there's still that core group of both employees. Well, maybe not so much employees anymore. A lot of them have gone on, but the same core group of people who train there.
Yeah.
To where I haven't been there in almost 2 years, but I know I could walk in there,
you know who you'll see,
and I'm going to see the people. Yeah.
And that's the nice thing is there's a very community.
Those people are loyal.
Focused aspect around it. Yeah. But I've applied that same method of just genuinely getting to know people. I've never been a salesman. I've never considered myself a salesman. I have to sell in order for my business to live and to function and to
But
provide.
as an observer, you're selling by being so natural, by being yourself.
I think that's
people are buying into. I said it before. People are buying into your personality, and then once they've done that, now they're buying into your skills. But I think your personality and the way you do things. I got to say this, and this isn't a put down on Norwegians, but because we are different and we're not from Norway, we approach everything, the smallest detail in social norms and mores. We approach it in a different way that is not Norwegian, and I think it stands out. Yeah, I think it can be very attractive to people.
Excuse me. One of the first managers that I worked under, he said that because I was concerned about not speaking Norwegian. Yeah,
because you started there before you could speak Norwegian.
Yeah, and I still don't speak Norwegian very well.
I wanted to ask you about that, but does it get in the way of things?
No, it never has. Yeah. I think I've had one person maybe in the 6 years that I've been doing this say they didn't want to work with me because I didn't speak Norwegian, fluent Norwegian. Right. And the funny thing about that person was they had never met me. They just they had contacted me based off hearing from someone or something like that. They came back to me a few months later and said, "It's okay now."
I love it. I love it.
So they had actually went with another PT for a little while. And then came back to me. So it's
I think it's a branch where you can get by just fine speaking English.
It is, and it's very much. No one is forced to work with me. People work with me by choice.
That's true.
So if they didn't want to work with me based on the fact I didn't speak Norwegian, that's their absolute choice. You know what I mean? There's no one that's forced into my path and said, "This is your PT and you have to work with him." So they chose to. They chose
it. Yeah, they walked into that world. But what about the language, though? Do you wish you spoke it better? Do you feel? Do you ever come up in a situation where you're like, "Oh gosh, I wish I could"?
Yeah, I can get by better now. I used to hate it in the beginning. In Scottsdale, where I live, people aren't very comfortable speaking English whatsoever.
Do they speak Norwegian? Do they speak Norwegian in Scottsdale? They speak Skotselvian, don't they? Yeah. I'm sorry, Scottsdale. One of these days, that whole village is going to rise up and come after me.
Yeah, man, and I'll be at the head of it. But yeah, so many people there, particularly people over a certain age, aren't so comfortable speaking English.
Yeah.
So I have many daily smaller interactions in Norwegian, and I can do that. When it gets into more elaborate, drawn out conversations, that's where I struggle. it's entirely my own responsibility. I'll put my hands up and say this. It's, you know,
Is it something you're going to address more?
I will. I think at some stage. I'm sorry to every Norwegian before I say this, but I find it very boring to sit and study. And I struggle with that. I learn a lot from my kids, which is nice, so that's cool. But when I have a kind of limited time in which to give to studying something like that, I've decided and consciously decided to put my time into studying to become a better trainer.
Well, there you go.
To be better in my career. You know, as I said, the language thing, I can communicate with everyone in Norway because everyone in Norway speaks English to a pretty high degree.
So
some speak English better than I do. You know, it's crazy, much clearer than I do, and with much less grammatical mistakes, you know. So
so you're prioritizing according to what you and your family need at the
moment.
Because
as I say, I work in a job without a fixed salary.
Yeah.
It's very reliant on me actually being good at what I do and delivering high quality, and that's where I decided to put my focus.
There you go.
Because that is the most
smart
important
decision.
Yeah, I think that's, and it's again, it goes back to that kind of role of wanting to provide and take responsibility, and that was the primary avenue for me to do that in the initial years. Yeah,
I think that's a smart. Not that you need my approval, but or do you? Do you need my approval?
Maybe a little bit. It's
I
nice
approve.
to have anyway.
No, but you're putting the focus on what you need to do for your family. And that's quite understandable. And again, I think the training branch, is a branch where you can speak English and you do just fine as you are.
Yeah.
So,
and as I say, one of my managers, he actually counted it as an advantage. He thought it made me stand out more.
Well, and I think that's what I'm experiencing with my radio program. They asked me to do this in English because it's different.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I don't think there's another Black American with a radio show in English in Norway.
You don't think so?
I don't think we're not that many. So the uniqueness of it, I think is to an advantage.
Yeah,
I'm sure you experience that as well. I mean, it's another thing that can identify you as a personal trainer.
Exactly.
You're that guy that speaks English. You're that guy from Northern Ireland.
Uniqueness factor is
it's important.
It's huge. I think it's very easy. While personal training, as I say, I think. There's a high turnover. It's also a very saturated industry. It's particularly in the UK.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
It's there's quite a low barrier.
Hats off to you for still doing this and doing it well. 90%.
There's quite a low barrier for entry as well.
That's
true. The education standard here in Norway,
month-long course in Bali, and all of a sudden you come out with a good tan and a personal training certificate.
You know, and that's how I got certified. Not in Bali, unfortunately, but in Belfast. But
But you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. The question is, what do they do afterwards?
Exactly, and that was my thing. Was I needed to do that to get the certificate, so I done it in the most efficient path possible. You know, but I committed myself to, as I said earlier, I committed myself to lifelong or career-long progression in education, and I have stuck to that. I've took at least one certification and as many as 3 each year subsequently.
So you're building that knowledge then.
Absolutely, you know, and that's, as I say, that's part of the process of where I figured I would put my free time is in actually becoming better at my career and developing my career.
It's so motivating.
So it's
I love people. I'm going to respect anyone who is out for more knowledge. So to see you with that level of dedication to where you're and you don't have to, a lot of PTs will fake it with what they know, but you're not faking it. You're going out there, you're taking the courses, you're getting that education and building on it. Yeah. Hats off to you, man. I think it's wonderful.
I am very, I know where my knowledge is limited to, and I'm not afraid to admit that. I feel,
honesty.
Yeah, I'm quite secure in who I am and the level of effort and work and the work ethic that I have to improve. So I'm not afraid to say if I don't know something either, Yeah. And then it gives me somewhere else, another avenue to go in terms of my education.
I love finding out that I don't know something that I really should know, because then I'm going to learn it and I'm going to build that little backpack full of knowledge is going to get a little heavier, and I love it. Yeah. I love it, man. Yeah. Let me ask you this. Where do you see yourself as a PT? How old are you, first of all?
34.
34. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? Let's just come with a little fact. Most PTs are of a certain age or younger.
Yep.
How long do you want to keep doing this? How long do you think you can keep doing this successfully?
So that's something I've been thinking about more and more recently. Of course, especially when I give up quite a lot of time with the kids when they were small because of the early mornings and late evenings. And that's why I'm venturing more. Part of the reason why again, from that selfish aspect, part of the reason why I'm venturing more online is because it'll give me a little bit more freedom in terms of my time and stuff like that. I don't see myself being an on-floor PT into my 50s and 60s. I could probably carry it on into my 40s. But I think I will look for a further path of a development, another level up, So I don't know exactly where that leads at the minute. It's something that I'm figuring out. And the nice thing now is, as I get more experienced, as I kind of develop and get better in my career, I have a greater opportunity for selection as well, and I think that'll only develop over time. So I can, my goal longer term is to stop doing evenings altogether and only work on daytimes. So it's I think when you build up a certain level of competence, and I do not think of myself as an elite PT by any means, but I know I'm a good PT. I know that because of the work that I've put in, and the evidence that I see around me. But I do not think that I'm a great or outstanding PT by any means. But I know with what I've put in and where I'm a little bit more sought after now than what I was early in my career. It'll be easier for me our people will have a stronger desire to make their schedule fit around the times that I can offer, rather than me. Rather than the other way around, and that's again, and that's from a selfish perspective, and I can say that quite openly. But my desire, of course, is to I want more time with my family. That is my favorite pastime, is spend the time with my wife and kids.
We've talked a lot about family in this conversation. I can see it's very important.
And I have more of that now, and it just makes me crave more as well. So today is quite open for me. I have one coaching call that I do online after this session, and then I'm going to pick my kids up from Barnahanga from kindergarten, and then
pretty easy day then.
And then we take them off. So my son's currently doing swimming lessons on Thursday evenings. My daughter goes to dance class. We take turns of which one we take, and I love that. I love being involved in that and being able to go and enjoy that with them. So my son actually had his first swimming lesson last week. I took him. Man, I get such a sense of pride. It's amazing. That is the greatest joy I have ever experienced in my life, is when I see my kids achieve and challenge themselves. It's such an
Isn't it beautiful?
It's such an amazing feeling, man. And you see areas where they're afraid, but they keep trying. And as I say, I learn from my kids so much. I made a post about it the other day about how I'm supposed to show them the way, and oftentimes I feel that they're actually the ones showing me the way, because they're so persistent. They're so
and they're so pure.
And they get frustrated and they get angry, but then they let that pass and then they go again. You know what I mean? They don't let that consume them.
There's so much in the moment.
As adults, we tend to let the embarrassment or the feeling of the fear of failure. But yeah, that's where I was with what I was rolling with, was just as adults we tend to let the fear of failure consume us much more.
I'm just writing down a note that I have to clip that out at 1 hour and 20 minutes. Clip out phone call. But actually, that is a segue, because that was a television guy.
Oh, right.
And I want to ask you. Let me do this. Okay, now here's a segue. We're back through the powers of technology. We have clipped out a bunch of BS, and now we're back. But let me ask you this. This is a segue into something that I'm curious about. You've had a string of television commercials, or adverts, as you guys would call them. Television commercials, which I think are just brilliant. And you didn't tell anybody about this. All of a sudden, I saw it actually on a YouTube commercial. I'm like, I know that guy, that's Andrew. And it was just so brilliantly done. How did this happen to where you got cast in this commercial series?
That was just, man, that's like, sometimes I feel like I'm just drifting through life and things happen to me, It's, I very much I look out for opportunity. I seek out opportunity. So it was complete random chance, if you want to call it that, or believe in that. I'm not so sure actually. I believe a little bit in destiny and sovereignty of
I believe in that. Somebody's guiding all of
God.
this.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was actually, so I'm in a Facebook group called Brits in Oslo. It's like an expat group for British people.
Great source of networking, information, opportunity.
Yeah. So
I have an American group that's very similar.
These groups are fantastic. I've made some really good friends through that. And it's... So I was, someone in there had shared this Facebook post saying we're seeking British people for a TV commercial. And why not? So I just, all they asked for was, I didn't know anything about the role or anything like that at first. They just asked for a photograph at first and a little bit about who you are, your age and that kind of thing. I sent that off and got a reply pretty quickly that they wanted a video audition, and they gave me like a little bit of a script.
Now it's real.
Yeah, and they wanted it by the end of the day, God. And I was like, I had like 2 hours before I had to go to work or something, and then I was working till late that night, so I was like, and I filmed this quick little video audition. I think I still have it on my phone, man. I can maybe show you it after. My wife thinks it's hilarious. We watched it over and over and over again because I had to play 2 roles. I was on my own. I didn't have anyone to read with me. Yeah. So I just like set the camera up at 2 different angles and played these 2 different roles and edited it together. And so then they called me back and they said it's this famous Norwegian director, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes.
Who was doing it. I hadn't heard from him before, a little bit embarrassingly, I should give, but he's quite a big deal here in Norway.
Yeah, he is.
He lives in Hollywood and has directed Hollywood movies.
You need to get out of the gym. You'll hear about these things.
Yeah, but that's it. I don't keep up with news and gossip and stuff like that, so that's where I miss out.
There you go, see?
So it was very cool. So it was a really interesting experience. They called us down to... We had to go shoot in Oslo in a pub. The funny thing was they wanted British people to sit in a pub and talk about football, and I was like, man,
very British.
That's barely even acting,
it's a typical afternoon,
So it was, we got called down that morning, and then that was actually the day when the restrictions were lifted, like the first lockdown restrictions were lifted.
Yeah.
So then the pub wanted to open that day, of course, because they were allowed to have customers back. They had
they want their money.
They had booked this pub for the day to kind of to film this commercial, and then all of a sudden this pub wanted to open at 3 a.m. So we had to meet there at like 5 a.m. to try and fit this. They wanted to open at 3 p.m. So we had to meet at like 5 a.m. to try and get the filming done. So they could clear everything out and the pub could let the customers come in, So then we got down there and then we actually found out we were shooting 3 commercials, not just one.
It was a series.
And so they just hand us a script and go read over these. We're starting in 10 minutes.
It was that quick.
Yeah. And it was like, it was a really, really fun experience, man. It was very improvised, and there was loads and loads of outtakes. We were forgetting our lines and swearing, and it was such a laugh. And
but all of you in that commercial were British.
Yeah.
This wasn't Norwegians.
No. So they wanted British people to play dumb football fans talking about Norwegian football without actually having any knowledge of Norwegian football. So we were getting everything wrong, basically.
It was brilliant.
So
I love it,
and
man.
it was very well received, and
it's
actually been nominated for an award, I think.
Congratulations.
For the end of the year, there's like an award for best commercial of the year.
Well, has it led to any other opportunities in film?
I actually I shot another commercial, another ad, but it was a smaller role. And a few weeks back for a Norwegian electronics firm.
Okay.
And I have only seen, I don't know if there's a TV version of it or not, because we don't actually watch TV all that much. So I don't know. So I've only seen the short Facebook version, and you see me for like... It was like a day of filming, and it was like I'm on the screen for like half a second,
just a flash in the
distance. I was like, what? We were down there all day, and we were filming these different angles, and we were having to do all these different things, and then it was like, it's shot by in half a second. But
these commercials are your first experience.
I had never. Not since primary school. I think when I done like a school play in primary school, I don't think I'd ever done anything like that since then. So it was just kind of I did it for a bit of a laugh initially.
But and I've heard a lot of people comment this. You come off very professional, almost as like you've done this before. You come off very professional and quite charming in that commercial. Is this something that you think that you'll pursue more actively and try to make something out of it?
Possibly. I don't.
You look great. You're a good figure in front of the camera. You are. It's and you're charming. At least according to the script that you had in front of you. I mean, it's good. It works.
Let's just say I was barely acting, man.
Typical afternoon.
Football. Yeah. I mean, it's not something I ever see becoming a career, if I'm honest.
You're not like looking for an agent now.
No. But it was such a fun day, man. And even the one that I shot most recently, one I shot most recently, where I got mostly clipped out, it seems. That was a really fun day too, and you get to meet cool people, you know. So I'm still in touch with a lot of these people. The like main guy who done most of the talking in the commercial, in the Holland one. He is a director and an actor. He has an acting background. So he was actually close by me in Vestfossen recently at the drama club. He has a friend who runs the drama club there for the kids, and he was there. I didn't know they had a drama club out there. Yeah, neither did I, but apparently so. And so he was out there as a bit of a guest then, coaching them through one of these classes, and he called me up because he knew I lived close by there. So he called round and we took the dog for a walk, you know. So I still in touch with them all quite regularly.
So in that networking process, there may be some opportunities that come up, and you'll certainly take them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I got contacted for another role a few weeks back there that they wanted to put me forward for a role.
Okay.
But I haven't, and they want to ask my permission, and I said, yeah, of course, put me forward. But I haven't heard anything back since.
A television?
So it was actually a movie role.
There you go, yeah.
So, and now I don't know if the language, it was because it was for a Norwegian movie.
I should overdub you.
Yeah. I don't know if the language thing is maybe going to possibly be an issue there, but I haven't heard anything back in a couple of weeks, and I guess that's probably passed and went on to somewhere else. And I guess that's very much the industry, you know, so it's not... You can't be too invested in possible roles, because you're going to get passed over a lot.
Well, and it's a small market here.
Absolutely, especially for English speakers and stuff like that. The thing that my wife said that might work in my benefit on occasion is that I obviously have quite a specific look. With the shaved head and the goatee and you know, relatively muscular, and I have tattoos and so if there's a very specific role that comes up requiring a look like that, then
I've been messing around with writing. I should write a film and just cast you and I in it as lead characters.
I think we would make a good double act.
That whole thing with television and stuff, it fascinates me. There's some doors that have opened for me. I can't really say. I'm with intention teasing the viewers and the listeners. I'm teasing. There's a television thing that's coming up very soon. That's already in the box.
Very cool.
And it'll be coming soon. And then I hope that leads to some other opportunities because that world fascinates me.
Well, the whole process of shooting that commercial was amazing to see. The level of detail they went into.
They're so good at it. And they think of things that you wouldn't. You think it's just point the camera and push record. Yeah. Oh God, it's so much more than that.
All the angles that they had to film just for different things was amazing. So we had to do the same thing over and over and over to get all these different angles.
It's a tiring process.
And the funny thing was because we didn't know the script so well, it was really hard to actually repeat the same thing over. So we were saying different things every time.
Like
but
you
they
had
managed
so little time.
Yeah,
from the minute you got cast to where you had to be in front of the camera.
Yeah. So it all happened very quickly. But it was that was it. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, the director, he was amazing. He was very very down to earth, very relaxed, which put us all at ease as well. You know, and he laughed about it and he said it was wonderfully spontaneous and you know.
Well, a good director is a good leader.
Yeah, and he really was. You could see why he's reached the level that he's at,
and bring out the best in the people in the cast.
Because it was quite. I had no idea what I was walking into when I was going. You know, so I was driving to Oslo that morning at like 4:00 in the morning, and you know, the heart starts to beat a little harder. I was like, what if all these other guys are professional actors? And you know, I had no idea. And,
but see, I'm crazy. I would go into that situation not nervous in the slightest, but I would be very excited. I'd get to learn something.
Well,
I've never done this. I may be horrible at it, but I'm going to learn regardless.
Well, that's what I tell myself anyway. So I do get nerves. I do get nerves in certain situations, but I never let that hold me back. You know, I'm very much go for it anyway.
Go for it.
Do the thing that scares you. I'm a really big believer in that. It helps to, and again, to kind of circle back to the mental health thing, I think that's been a huge part of me kind of overcoming anxiety and things like that, was actually just putting myself in those situations. Yeah. I've done, like, since I've been in Norway, I've done public speaking to companies. Yeah, I've delivered presentations to companies, like health presentations and everything. And I've done these TV commercials, and I sit on podcasts with you now. I'm a recurring guest, you know.
But this is easy. This is just two brothers talking. But I understand you're putting yourself out there, and that can be a challenge.
And it becomes much more natural, you know. So I'm a big believer in that, you know, do the thing that scares you. Really, anxiety is kind of irrational fear. You know, it's fear of
something that hasn't even happened yet and may not happen at all.
And when you actually, so that was a big part that helped me, was like actually boiling this down and go. I remember going for that public speaking thing where I had to present to this company. Basically, I was talking about health and things they could do for their posture and different things like that. And I remember going for that, and my heart was pounding out of my chest. I was like, and you know, you start to have, should I just turn around and not show up, you know, and all these things. And it was sick. And it's like, okay, actually, what is the worst that can happen? You know, is you stumble over your words a little bit. You start having all these fears of, like, what if I say something wrong and there's some really smart, qualified person in the audience that calls me out and stuff like this, you know? And at the end of the day, I'm very happy to put my hands up and say if I make a mistake, if I say something incorrect and someone points it out to me, in a respectful manner, not in a degrading manner. If it's a degrading manner, I'm going to fight back, you know.
But it's a learning moment for you and possibly for the entire public that's listening. Everybody can be corrected in that moment.
I think to have that, to be willing to do that is, I think it's such an important thing in life, actually.
Absolutely.
It's
how did you get
that? Our marriage and everything, you know, when you can just put your hands up and say, my mistake.
Well, it's a sign of strength.
And it saves so much conflict and friction, you know. And I think so many people are afraid to back down, and that's kind of the like the political culture and social media culture and everything now, where everything becomes tribal, and it becomes much more conflict based rather than discussion based.
And you have to be right.
And
you have to be right. You know,
so
what I'm saying is correct. People are very much there.
So
inflexible.
That's only going to be detrimental to our society.
How did you get? Okay, you have a little bit of anxiety about public speaking, but you got this gig to be a public speaker. How did it fall into your lap, or did you seek it out?
Again, kind of fell into my lap. It's like, man, that's what I mean. I feel like I kind of drift through life sometimes. And these things just hit me, you know. But it's again, I am open. I go through life feeling open to opportunity.
Isn't that what it's all about?
Even if I'm not necessarily seeking something,
have your eyes open. Keep your head on a swivel, and you see the opportunities.
Absolutely. There's so much out there, man, and I really believe that oftentimes people have the blinkers on, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's
was it somebody who saw you as a personal trainer?
It was at the process where I had moved from a commercial gym to I then went and worked in a private physiotherapy clinic in Oslo for a while as a personal trainer. They had a gym. And then things were different for me business-wise again, because in the commercial gym, you have a constant stream of people coming through the door, constant stream of potential customers. Kind of. In this clinic, it was in a basement in Oslo. We didn't really have a membership as such. No. You know, everyone worked privately. The physios all worked privately. The PTs all worked privately, and it was our responsibility to generate our own business.
Yes. So
again, these were many times I had to put myself outside my comfort zone. I'm actually quite an introverted person. Sometimes people are surprised, but I like these situations of like one-on-one conversations and stuff. Larger crowds and stuff, I actually tend to be less vocal.
I can identify with that, because do you know why I do stand-up comedy? To kill my fear of being out there alone. That's a very naked situation to be on a microphone, and these people are out there and they're saying, okay, go ahead, make me laugh.
The potential to just bomb is just, you know, and
that's, I mean, I have a genuine interest in stand-up comedy, but I make myself do it to fight back against that thing.
Putting yourself in those uncomfortable positions. Yep. I honestly believe that is how we grow as people.
I do believe it.
Say, you don't grow in your comfort zone. You
don't.
It's so then when I went to this clinic, I had to figure out ways for people to know me. I couldn't just walk the gym floor and talk to people, So what I did was I just walked around the streets outside the clinic. I talked to people. I went into the local businesses all around the place, and I brought business cards, and I talked to them, and I told a little bit about what I did and where we were located and stuff like that.
Now you were fully clothed, right? Because I think of Arnold Schwarzenegger in I think it was in like 1969 where he spent an entire winter walking around. Was it in New York? New York, I think, when he was living in New York, walking around in his posing trunks in the middle of winter, just walking in the streets, talking to people to try and promote powerlifting. Bodybuilding at a gym. I want to say he was in New York in the wintertime.
Crazy, man. Yeah. It's not it's like but again,
so I just got that image when you say you're out there walking in the street. But you put
people would be glad to know I was fully clothed.
There you go, people. The truth comes out. But you put yourself out there, literally put yourself out there among strangers to promote something that you were doing.
Exactly.
That's not easy.
No, and as I say, that goes quite far beyond what I feel comfortable with, So it's so I was going around and I had these business cards, and I called into a local architect's office, I think it was, and I met a guy just inside the door, and I started talking to him, and I gave him my card and left, and hadn't really thought anything of it because I'd done that dozens of times that day. A few weeks later, this guy calls me up and says, I actually work for a large company that provides like office services to other large companies, like office maintenance services to other companies. Yeah, and he was like the human resources guy or something. So he actually fulfilled this role for this architect's office. They were one of the clients, so he didn't actually work in the architect's office. Yeah. The architects was a client of his business. And he said, we are putting on a company health day. We want to promote health and well-being and stuff like that.
You timed it perfectly.
Amongst our clients. So we're having one in our building where there'll be our employees and also two of our clients, two different companies that are clients of ours. Would you come along and speak a little bit about ergonomics and posture and stuff like that, and what people can do to kind of aid their posture when they're sitting in an office all day? So again, I said, opportunity, I'll go and do it.
But it's important to say, it's important to emphasize that we kind of talk about whether things fall into your life and you're kind of just wandering through life, but you do have this, it seems to be a tendency to seek that opportunity. Of course, you're open for opportunity, but you did an active thing and actually going out on the streets and talking with people.
I'm a big believer
That's your initiative.
that pays off. I don't think anything just lands in your lap.
Sometimes it does.
Yeah, on occasion, but it's usually as a result of
your conditioning to be out there and to be aware. Yeah. So there is an active element to it.
Absolutely. So there's these opportunities that arise that may be in a completely different field and down a completely different avenue from what you've been doing. But oftentimes these have arisen because of what you've been doing, because you've been actually forging a path for yourself, and I really am a big believer in that. Yeah. If you just sit home and be quiet and live within yourself, like I said, no one's going to knock on my door and say, "Will you come and be my PT?" They approach me because I'm on the gym floor, and it's the same with social media now. They approach me because I'm putting myself out there on social media, and people send me a message and say, I want to join your online coaching program. And this was very much the same. So I went to this company, and I had thought that this was going to be this, big day, which it was. Yeah. But I assumed there would be other speakers, other presenters talking on different topics.
But you were the guy.
I was the only guy.
Oh.
And so I went in there, and it was this huge building with these high ceilings and glass roof and everything, this natural light. It was beautiful, beautiful building in Lysaker. Yeah.
Beautiful business district.
I've been in
just outside of Oslo. For those of you who don't know,
I've been in a few businesses and a few company buildings in that.
It's beautiful. A lot of investment in the structure.
Really outstanding. So he put me up. There was probably maybe 30 people there originally, and I thought, okay, this isn't too bad, and stood up, and I didn't wing it. I had notes with me that I'd went over the night before.
Did you have any visual aids?
No. I just man, I'm so bad with technology that I thought that was now I'm getting a little bit more familiar with using technology and different things.
I wouldn't be surprised if we've been talking for the last hour and 40 minutes and nobody's heard us because something's wrong with my setup. So I'm the same way.
We've had a good time anyway, man. But yeah, so I didn't want anything that would kind of throw me off,
Yeah.
So I literally got up and stood, and I done a little practical piece where I took them through some exercises and stuff like that, and done a few assessments and things, and went for, it was about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Went over and I was like, I'd done it.
Now, was that the agreed upon time? Smooth. Did you tell them it would be about a half hour?
Well, it told me an hour and a half. It told me to block off an hour and a half. Oh. But then we just went out, and anyway, I was happy enough. And then he was like, those guys left. And then he was like, okay, the next group's coming down. So I had to do the 30 minutes 3 times. So he told me to block off an hour and a half, but then when I got there, he told me to present for about 30 minutes.
Okay.
So I just assumed that was it. But I actually had to do the same thing 3 times through in 3 30-minute blocks. So yeah, it was a little bit different each time. Because
how long ago was this?
3 years ago, maybe.
And did it lead to more?
Yeah, so they actually took me, and they paid me for this. They paid me quite well. Plus, I ended up actually getting clients as a result of this as well. And then they'd done the same thing at one of their other clients, which was a huge oil and gas company in San Vica.
Important issue, this whole thing with health in that industry. It's very important. It's vital that those people are in shape.
Yeah, so this was this was like their head office building. So it was the administrative side, and the executive side. And I'd had to do the same thing they wanted me to do the same thing there.
So you literally, just to go through it again, to take it back to the beginning, you have this thing where you're very uncomfortable with public speaking, but you had to figure out, how am I going to get new clients? You're in a new situation as a PT. You're now in a clinic. You literally go out into the streets.
Yeah.
He's on the streets, folks, and you're handing out cards, and this leads to you doing that very thing that you almost have a phobia against.
Yeah.
But not only did you do it, but the act of doing it led to even more income, more clients, more opportunities, because you've spoken several times since then.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, man.
So
talk about personal growth. I mean, that is it right there.
Well, that's it.
Personal growth.
And that's as much what it's about for me. Is I'm at a stage in my life where, I feel like many times in the past I let fear hold me back so much.
Yeah. It's time to get on the move.
I refuse to do that now, and that's the thing is I feel like I kind of lost 10 years of my life. From I was 15 to I was 25.
Really?
I dropped out of school at 16. No job prospects. I worked a bunch of dead-end jobs. I done some petty crime to fund my lifestyle.
How's that make you feel when you go through
prospects? I don't like what I done, but at the same time, I'm quite. I don't even say that I'm proud of myself. I don't think I'm proud of myself. I feel like I've just done what I should have done. You know what I mean? I wasn't supposed to stay in that place. So actually moving forward and becoming a better person and forging a career and starting a family, these are all things that most people do naturally. For me, it was, I kind of skipped that part for a bit.
Right.
And then I feel like I just got my life on track, so it's not, I don't really feel a sense of pride of it. I just feel that I've fulfilled my
but you should be. You
fulfilled my responsibility.
You should feel proud about that. You're definitely someone to look up to. You're definitely a shining example of someone who has come through adversity. I like to say that all people are the sum of their past.
Yeah.
And whatever that past is, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Here you are today, and you are this person because of what happened before. And if you can turn all of that, whether it's trauma, whether it's crime, whether it's addiction, whether it's anything negative, whether you stole cookies out of the cookie jar or biscuits, as you crazy people say. You know what? My wife, you call them what?
Bickies.
Bickies. Yeah, that's a new one.
Like short for biscuits.
Bickies. Okay, yeah. No, my wife is very different in the way she speaks English. She doesn't speak Norwegian English, but she doesn't even speak like American English. She kind of has her own thing. But one thing that irritates me is she'll call a cookie a biscuit.
Yeah.
Like, come on, woman, of all things British to pick up, why do you say, because cookies are important, okay? So call them what they are, not a biscuit.
It's the other way around for me, man. I really struggle with saying candy. You know,
what do you call it then?
We call them sweets.
Sweets.
We just say sweets. But here everyone says candy.
Everyone says candy.
So I kind of had to get into.
But cookies are not biscuits.
So, man, if I go back home to my working class community in Northern Ireland, talking the way I talk here, they will punch me in the face, man.
I don't notice that. I have changed the way I speak English. I don't notice it, but when I'm on the phone with my sister, will laugh at me.
I think it's natural to do it.
Yeah, and I don't. She says not even the way I pronounce certain words, but the sentence structure.
Yeah.
Well, a sentence, for example, back home in Ohio, they say sentence. Yeah. I say sentence.
Yeah.
And I wonder, I think that's because when I first met my wife, her English wasn't that good. So I had to kind of drop all kinds of slang and dialect and speak very clearly to her.
Yeah.
And I think I just kind of stuck with that since then. Language is interesting. It's a very interesting thing. I think
it's natural to do because I have to do it too. I speak much clearer now than what if I was speaking to someone from back home.
You've said a few things. Every once in a while it comes up and I'm kind of like, I'm not sure what you said, but I'll just keep going.
Yeah. And that's it. That's the funny thing here is like people here still think I have a really strong accent, you know, and I think I'm watering it down loads, and people from back home are probably like, who is this guy? He's changed, man, you know. And it's like, but people here, if I spoke like really broad Northern Irish here, people wouldn't get a word I was saying, man. So I have to take it back.
Said,
you know?
not in this conversation, but before, you've said a few things to me sometimes, certain phrases, and I was just like, okay, just keep going, John. Just let it roll. God, I just don't know what you said. Your actual you in the way you speak falls through from time to time. And it does with me as well. Sometimes I'll say things, and even after 20 years of marriage with her, she's like, what did you say? And I have to repeat it in a more clear, clean, less slang way. Yeah. So
my wife gets it very much now, and actually some Norwegian people, when they hear my wife speaking English, think that she sounds Northern Irish now. Yeah. But if we go right back to the first time she visited, the first time she came over to visit was actually the first time we'd spoke, because we never spoke on the phone or anything. Everything was like email and text, you know. Yeah. So we were walking through Belfast. We were spending the weekend in Belfast, and we were going to get dinner, and I was talking away, and my wife's quite introverted as well. When you get to know her, she really opens up and very conversational, but when she first meets someone, she'll be quite quiet. So I was doing a lot of the talking, you know, and I was talking away, and I just heard her muttering to herself, "This is going to be a long weekend."
I love it. But she survived. She survived.
Man, it's 7 or 8 years later, you know. So
give me a phrase. Now you have to entertain me. Dance, monkey, dance. Give me a phrase. Give me a phrase in your local dialect, pure local dialect, and let me see if I can get it.
It's what's a crack?
Good God, what was that? What's a crack?
What's a crack?
Like, how's it going?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's a crack?
I guess I kind of
you can get it from the tonality.
Well, in the body language, you know.
Yeah.
Give me another one.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm doing this.
I'm scundered.
Scundered. I would guess that would be I'm tired.
I'm embarrassed.
Embarrassed.
Scundered. Yeah.
Scundered.
Or we would
see, now I wouldn't even be able to catch what that would be based on in like clean English. Scundered.
I don't even know if I don't know if that's the thing, is a lot of these I don't even know if they're actual words or they're slang, you know. It's just what we say.
Give me one more.
We say, well, you'll get this one because you just said it, but we say I'm shattered.
Shattered, yeah.
That's tired.
Yeah.
But I guess that's pretty normal.
It's not normal, but it's easy to figure that out.
Yeah. Let me see. It's hard to think when you put me on the spot, man, you know.
I do that to people. I do that.
Yeah, let me see.
Okay. I'm going to do something. Now, I'm totally, really talking down on you, but let's just test your sense of humor. I'm going to write something, and I want you to say it. And this is for my sister, my sister Meredith back home. I want you to say exactly this, and you can give it back to me in return, because I am really teasing you.
It's all good, man. I'm good with it.
And all of my American friends, are going to know exactly why I'm having Andrew read this. All of my American friends are going to understand this, and they're all going to say, John, how could you do that to him? Well, again, I tease because I love. You see that right there? I want you to read that, please. In your most Northern Irish.
Frosted Lucky Charms. It's magically delicious.
Thank you.
Was it good?
It was good. Now, there is a breakfast cereal.
Yeah, Lucky Charms and the leprechaun, isn't that right? Yeah.
Isn't that awful that I did that? I have ruined my friendship with Mr. Andrew Morrow.
Absolutely not, man. That's 100% our style of humor, is to actually to insult and tease and depreciate.
But if you were going to tease a Black American, I mean, do you guys have a stereotype?
Man,
give it back to me.
There we're towing a line.
Now he's going to get himself canceled.
Yeah. I think this works one way and not the other. You know?
It's a one-way street here. We'll do it off camera.
Man,
we'll do it off camera.
Where is the racial equality here?
We'll turn off the mic and then he'll let me have it. No, listen, Andrew. I thank you for having a sense of humor, man. Yeah. But I want to say, as we wind this up, I call you, and I'm getting chills as I think this. I have been an admirer of you and the work that you do, because I think it's so important to have this focused on men's health, to have a focus on health, period.
Yeah.
But more specifically, men's health. You see so much in the media today that is focused on women's health, both physical and mental health.
Yeah.
In social media and in the media in general, they'll talk about, fat shaming on women, and so much of this is towards women. And I feel that at times men's health gets forgotten.
Yeah.
Men's physical health, but also men's mental health. And you, like me, we put our mental health struggles out there. Depression because of my son, anxiety and things like that. We put that out there, and I think that it is of enormous benefit to men. So I've been a real admirer, and I want to say that from the heart, my brother. I have been a real admirer of what you're doing. It's been my honor to have you on my podcast and radio program.
I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for your time. I want to ask you something, though, before we go, and I ask all of my guests to do this. I'm going to say 3 words, and then I'd like you to fill out the sentence. Just one sentence, okay?
Wow.
Andrew Morrow is?
Complex.
Complex. Well, okay.
I would say, but from a more role perspective, I would say dad, husband, coach.
And that's 3 good things to be. That's 3 things that put you in a state of giving of yourself. Dad, husband, coach. You've got to be a giver to succeed at those.
Those are the things, those are the 3 areas where I would consider my identity. And I don't think, of course, it's so good to put your whole identity in your career, maybe not. But, saying I'm a coach is not necessarily saying I'm a personal trainer,
but if you're really on fire for what you do as a career, it's kind of okay to really put a big part of your identity into that, because, it's not I think you and I are blessed to be able to do these things that we really have a passion for, and then also call it work.
Yeah.
So when you're in that position, I think it's okay to identify with what you do for money.
And I think, like you said before, that we are the sum of our past. We are what we do. I think in the present, we are what we do, and coaching and personal training is a big part of what I do.
Yeah.
Dad and husband, being a good dad and good husband, and I think forging a good.
You have a beautiful family. I've never seen your wife, but you have beautiful children.
Yeah, thank you, man.
You do.
I have a beautiful wife as well.
Not trying to insult her. I just haven't seen her. Okay, I'm sure she's fine. I'll say this: Andrew probably has the second most beautiful wife in Norway.
Oh, there we go.
Can we say that?
There we go, charmer. And and providing and forging a career is a big part of being a good dad and a good husband. I actually believe, but those are my priorities in life. Those are the areas where I want to excel.
That's 3 wonderful areas of focus, again, that can put a significant change into other people's lives, not only in your own life as you're learning, but as you're giving to others.
Yeah.
It can really change lives. Of course, it can influence your children.
Yeah.
It'll influence your marriage. But then in your capacity as a coach and PT, you're helping people to change their lives. You're very instrumental in that. It's a beautiful position to be in.
Yeah, it's quite special actually.
It
sometimes
is. It's a lot of responsibility.
And I've had that. I've literally had that said to me, that you changed my life. And it's quite a quite special to have in your career.
It's very humbling.
Yeah.
It's very humbling. There's no room for arrogance. We talk about doing things for selfish reasons. Of course, we want to grow. We want to be in a better condition to be of benefit to our family and our friends. So there is that selfish element, but it's also quite humbling when someone says those words, you changed my life.
And I think it goes in circles too, because in seeking self-improvement, it improves our ability to help others as well.
Amen.
And growth, personal growth leads to, societal growth, or whatever you want to say. And
well, in that process of personal growth, you got to spread it. You've got to give it away as well. And you're doing that.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the process of personal growth. I think eventually it kind of it blossoms into that, where it becomes it's not about you. It's not just all about you anymore. And I think in terms of fatherhood, the kind of the impact that we can have for generations.
Yes.
Is
you're starting a legacy. You're starting a family legacy of positivity, of giving, of personal development. You're starting that. Your kids are going to see that and they're going to learn that. They may be too young to tell you that, but they see it.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this as a more experienced father, in that my children are older. But now they're at that age where every once in a while they'll say things, and it just breaks my heart in the most beautiful way, where they put words on how I have influenced them. They're doing that now.
It's special.
It's very special. It's very beautiful. And again, it's quite humbling. And it's like, yes, I'm doing something right.
Yeah. And that's it's really nice to feel that from time to time, because it's very easy to be critical of your own self. And
we're harsh.
We see our own flaws probably more than anyone else does.
We are very harsh on ourselves, so we need that external feedback. And that's not from weakness. It's just everybody needs that little push, that little thumbs up from time to time.
I don't think validation's a bad thing at all. I think seeking it from the wrong places is a bad thing, but from your wife and your kids, that's where you should be getting validation, and maybe if you're not, then there's something something amiss there.
So many times I've asked Snoopy, hey, am I doing this right? I need that validation from the most important person in my life. And that's not weakness. That's
no, I don't think so at all. I think that's part of the human experience. And
let me ask you this in closing. Is there something this podcast and this radio show is about me bringing in guests who motivate me, inspire me, people who I like, people who I'm interested in. So you fall within all of those categories. Can you say something to my viewers and to my listeners that they can carry with them as motivation, as inspiration to get through their day, to get through their life? Can you put a paragraph out there that people can hopefully remember?
Yeah. Again, I will kind of revisit something I said earlier a little bit, because it's something that I repeat a lot with my clients is don't let any little bump in the road become a huge catastrophe. A bump in the road is not a car crash. It's possible to get right back on track. And also to be resilient and persistent. Resilience and persistence. You might not be the most skillful or gifted or outstanding person in any field, but you can go a long, long way with resilience and persistence, because I don't consider myself to be any of the former, but I consider myself to have the latter. And that is what has helped me to shape the life that I have now, which is a very good one. And which gives me hope of having that more so in the future.
Beautifully said by Andrew Morrow. I almost forgot. Can you tell people where they can? It's probably best for them to find you on Instagram.
Yeah.
How do they find you?
Yeah, at Andrew Morrow Coach, or at andrewmorrow.coach. Sorry, and then you will see the tagline underneath Strong Dad Project.
At andrewmorrow.coach. And Morrow is Morrow for those non-English speaking, for those non-Northern Irish speaking, because that ain't English. He speaks Northern Ireland. No, but I encourage people to go. I encourage you people to go to Andrew's Instagram page. It's very inspiring. The program that he offers is quite effective. I've seen it on your clients at the gym, and this is going back almost 2 years when I was watching you train people at the gym. I can only imagine how much better things have gotten since then. Again, this brother is gaining in knowledge. The effect of what he can teach can only be more effective now than it was 2 years ago. So I want to say that without even seeing a current client, I know what you were doing before, and I know it was good. And again, I have a huge appreciation for the type of work that you do. It's quite inspiring. So don't stop.
Yeah. No plan to anytime soon.
You're changing lives, brother. As you change yourself for the better, you're also changing lives. There's a ripple effect in what you do. So you're a force to be acknowledged in this world. So thank you so much for what you do.
Appreciate that.
Do you feel good?
Absolutely.
I want you to feel good for being here. I feel I'm the better man for having had this discussion with you. So thank you.
This was a fantastic conversation. I enjoyed myself a lot.
Thank you so much, Andrew. All right, everybody. Andrew Morrow. Bye now.